What's new in the lab? Today's piece of gear is a holy grail pedal for me. It's the Shin-ei Psychedelic machine. About a week ago, I was taking a break from work and was browsing used guitar pedals at Austin Guitar House. If you're in the Austin area and you want to go to a guitar shop that has some very high-end equipment and spectacular service, Austin Guitar House is definitely a must. Should be a must on your visit list. Anyway, I was looking to see if they had any new used pedals in. I do this every now and then, and if there's something I can't live without, I'll go down and purchase it typically. I opened up the webpage and it was the first pedal in their used list. Now, I live in Austin, and I was checking this in the morning before they opened up at noon, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to the store until Saturday, so I ended up ordering it online and having it shipped to my house. I did not want to miss out on this pedal. I knew these units existed along with the Vibe Pro and the Vibe 2, but had resigned myself to the fact that I was never going to see one for sale locally or even see one in person, much less own one. So why is this a holy grail pedal for me? To answer that, let's go over a bit of history real quick. Around 1967, Japanese audio engineer Fumio Maeda created the Uni-vibe circuit. Before the floor unit made famous by Hendrix at Woodstock came out, the circuit was put in a head unit called the Psychedelic machine. This unit contained a Fuzz face-style circuit, a Uni-vibe, and an Octavia circuit. They were released under the Honey and later Companion brand names, and the Honey, Shin-ei, Companion, they're all kind of under the same umbrella. So if you see something from Companion, it's the same typically as the Honey offering, which would be the same as the Shin-ei. Also in the United States, a lot of these same circuits were released under the Univox name, so you can find a Uni-vibe with the Univox name as well. These head units are very hard to find and very expensive when they do come up for sale. Fast forward to around 2015 when Bob Feldman purchased the rights to the Shin-ei, Honey, and Companion brands, along with Dustin Sears, who is Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Eric Johnson's guitar tech, and input from amp builder Lee Jackson. They started recreating these Japanese pedals from the late 60s. These included two versions of the Uni-vibe, the FY-6 Baby Crying Fuzz, and the Psychedelic machine, the unit I'm holding in my hand right now. So this is the reboot of the Shin-ei and recreation of the Psychedelic machine. In a 2018 interview by Pedal of the Day website, I will link this below so that you can read the interview if you'd like. Bob Feldman describes what led up to the start of the reincarnated Shin-ei. And he says, quoted in the article, Eric Johnson's guitar tech Dustin Sears was making awesome clones of the original Honey and Shin-ei Uni-vibes here in Austin, Texas. After playing one, I thought it would be fun for us to manufacture a high-end modern-day extension of the original Uni-vibe that addresses the needs of both the old school and modern guitarist. The Vibro was born. Electronics guru Lee Jackson was quite instrumental in designing some of the relay circuitry that allows the Vibro to function in somewhat different manner than an original Uni-vibe without sacrificing any tone. This is my third year as owner of the reincarnated Shin-ei company. We have deep respect for the history and tradition of the original Japanese company's products. This will always be the driving force behind what we are doing today. Along with the Shin-ei.com domain name, I acquired the registered trademarks for the three vintage Japanese effects pedal companies, Shin-ei, Honey, and Companion. These were interrelated companies that produced some of the coolest vintage pedals from the 60s, like the Uni-vibe, the FY-6 Baby Crying Super Fuzz, the Special Fuzz, the FY-2 Companion Fuzz, and the Psychedelic Machine. Here is one of the Uni-vibe clones made by Dustin Sears that Bob was referring to. It's the Sir Henry, made by Tinsley Audio, and is basically hand-built by Dustin. He puts these out in batches every once in a while. If you're into Uni-vibes and you can find one of these, it's definitely worth a purchase. This is a fantastic unit. While the Shin-ei website is still up and it appears you can purchase some products from them, it was announced in Guitar.com article written on June 30th, 2021, that Shin-ei were ceasing production of these pedals, and I will link to that article below as well. Okay, let's go over some features of this pedal. So aesthetically, this is one of the prettiest pedals I've ever seen. Basically, over here, you have your fuzz circuit, and then the vibe circuit in the middle, and then you have your Octavia circuit. Now, the vibe circuit, like the article said, the Bob Feldman interview, the vibe circuit is basically the vibro. Now, one of the cool things about this particular vibe circuit is that it does include the preamp. The original Uni-vibe had a preamp in it, and when the vibe circuit was off, the preamp was still engaged, and that added a little bit of mojo to the sound. This is something that I feel is missing in a lot of the Uni-vibe clones out there, and I've got some pretty good ones. I've got an R. Weaver, I've got the Pedal Pawn, I've got the Tinsley Audio, and they're all fantastic Uni-vibe pedals, but they are all definitely missing that preamp. So right here, you have a switch that will allow you to keep the preamp on when the effects are off, or bypass the preamp completely and just have it act like any normal effects pedal, basically true bypass. You'll also notice that this does not have or does not run off of your pedal power supply. It's not 18 volts, it's certainly not 9 volts. It has its own transformer and step-down circuit. Basically, it runs off a standard IEC cable. If I'm not mistaken, like the original Uni-vibe, this is probably a 24-volt circuit, which gives it an incredible amount of headroom and kind of, you know, it gives it a unique character, basically. And then also, on the other side, each of the effects on this, the Octavia, the Fuzz, and the Vibe, have their own separate inputs and outputs. So, for example, I could go from the guitar to the input of the Fuzz, output of the Fuzz to the input of the Octavia, and then output to the input of the Uni-vibe, and then out to the amp. Or I could put the Uni-vibe first and basically reorder. The other thing that you can do with this is you can actually stick effects in between these inputs and outputs. So, for example, if I wanted to go from Uni-vibe out to a tube screamer or back into a fuzz, I could certainly do that. So that gives you a lot of options with this pedal. And of course, if you wanted to run just one of the effects, you could just go in, say for example, in and out of the Uni-vibe or the fuzz, and that would certainly work as well. So, you know, basically standard controls for all three effects. We've all seen them. Also notice that the brand name on this, when they rebranded it, it's a Shin-ei product, but it's branded Honey. A lot of the Psychedelic machines came out under the Honey moniker, so that is certainly accurate for the reboot. I do have the box. Shout out to Josh Scott. I do have the box, and the box actually has Shin-ei Companion on it, and it's kind of a pedal nerd thing, but I certainly do enjoy having a box with the name Shin-ei on it. I never thought I would own anything with that brand name on it. The original Uni-vibes are just too expensive. So let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up, and we'll run it through its paces and see what it sounds like. Okay, let's go over some signal chain here. So I'm using my 95 American Strat, and that's going into the psychedelic machine. Out of the psychedelic machine, we're going into a noise gate because this room is rather small and has a lot of electronics in it, so the single coils tend to pick up a lot of noise. From there, we're going out to my 1974 Marshall 100 watt super lead head. That goes into my Boss tube amp expander to attenuate it down, and then out of my tube amp expander left and right channels, I'm going through a speaker IR that comes native with the tube amp expander, and it is an IR of a cabinet, a 4x12 cabinet with vintage 30s and G12M greenbacks in it. And so basically clean sound. Clean sound cleans up real nice when you roll off the volume if you pick lightly. Pick hard, it gives you a little bit of dirt. Roll up the volume. Alright, so let's go through some of the sounds that this pedal will create. So let's start out with the fuzz. So again, my clean sound. See that the fuzz is nice and thick. I apologize for all the buzzing. It's noisy in here. Let's turn the noise gate on. A 2-transistor fuzz face style circuit, and it cleans up pretty glassy when you roll off the volume, so you can go from when you're ready to play your solo, you just crank the volume back up. kicked in the Uni-vibe there in the middle of that, and then also kicked in the octave circuit. I'm having trouble dialing in the octave circuit, and I'm not very good playing octave with octave pedals. Some people can make them sound phenomenal. Voodoo Child, Stevie Ray Vaughan's Voodoo Child, live from Austin City Limits. In his solos, he kicks in an Octavia, and obviously makes it sound great. I have a terrible time trying to make an Octavia sound good, but the octave pedal by itself. Okay, this is one of the lushest Uni-vibes that I own, and I think a lot of it has to do with that preamp. You can see even though all the effects are off, the preamp is still engaged. way that fuzz cleans up. Nice and glassy. So that is the Psychedelic Machine. Definitely a holy grail pedal for me. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.